On YouTube, it's brew day. I'm doing a 1 gallon batch Belgian quad beer. So I've just weighed out my grains. Today I am using Marisotta, Munich malt, caramel and special B. We're looking at 1.46 of your Marisotta, 100 grams of Munich malt, 30 grams of Cara Munich malt and 10 grams of special B malt. Special B malt is renowned in the Belgian strong beers, and you don't need much of that. 10 grams, as you can imagine, is not a lot, but it adds a lot of character, flavour to the beer. So I'm just boiling the kettle at the minute to the mash volume I need. So I've just got 1.5 litres and I need I think it's 11. I'm just over 11.03. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. So I'm just literally 1.5 times, well, I haven't done the maths yet, but I'll easily work it out, into my 19 litre brew vessel, which I've configured using Beersmith and selected the mini BIAB setting, so it works out all the volume, pre-volume, etc for me. I did go slightly, didn't quite have enough malt in the Marisotta and I overshot by 4 grams and 2 grams on the other malts. So what I'll do is I'll just plug that into Beersmith later and it'll give me an accurate reading for what sort of ABV I'm going to be looking at, and also that helps for when I get my refractometer before the boil and post boil, before I chuck in the yeast, so I can test my efficiency. So after boiling the kettle 5 times, using my rather fetching pink thermometer, I measured the size of the pot and just did a quick calculation, and it's just 6.007 inches or just over 15 centimetres for 11 litres, which is what my mash water is. Volume is, sorry. I've got some net curtain I bought off Amazon. Next time I'll buy 3 linear meters. I think it'll be a lot more easier to use. I am tempted to actually get a proper bag as well, because sometimes when you stir it, it sort of gathers up. It's a bit of a pain. And this Flexicord, pound from Poundland, great, but absolutely stinks. I'm not too sure what they've coated that in, but it's absolutely rancid. So I'm heating that up to, let's have a look, damn you pen, 71.9 centigrade. So I've got my digital thermometer. This one I bought. It's waterproof to IPC, I think 3 standards. Basically means you can go in a dishwasher and record, is your dishwasher safe? So I'm heating that up now as required. I'm going to dump it on there and wrap it in a sleeping bag I'm going to get from upstairs in a minute. So next I'm going to add my grains to the mash water. It's important that you do this a little bit at a time, making sure that each grain is soaked, and that enables more sugars to be released from the grain. If you dump it in too fast, you'll get dough balls, which are a pain to sort of disperse, if you will, into the smaller grains. So just add in it a bit at a time. And what this should do, once you've dumped it, it should lower the temperature to just over 69 degrees, which is the temperature I'm aiming for. So here we go, just adding them, stirring as I go. Okay. So once they're fully mixed in, I'll bang the lid on and I'll put my sleeping bag around it just to keep it as insulated as I can. And then you leave it, the grains to steep, or mash if you will, for 1 hour. And then I'll strain out this bag and bring the wort to the boil and get ready for my hop additions. So on Beersmith, I just altered the grain bill I actually put in, and yeah, it came in under about 8% or something like that. So as I've got candy dark sugar, 212 grams left, or 220. I'll just double check that actually. Yeah, no, it's 227. I've just changed that to 0.22. Left the grain bill as it is. The brown and dark sugar I've left them, and as you can see, it should come in an ABV 9%. So what I need to really make sure is that I get a good rehydrated yeast. So I'm using a Saf Brew Abbey dry yeast, and from reading, it's really important to make sure it's fully rehydrated. I don't need to make a starter, because with any dry yeast you don't need to do that. Liquid yeast you do need to do that, which is why my last batch totally fell short. Thinking about it now, I used 1 vial for 2 demijohns. What I really should have done is what they call made a starter using some dry malt, light dry malt extract and the yeast a few days before. Built up the cell count, some nice healthy yeast. This time also I bought some yeast nutrient. I bought some Wilco's, oh, is it Young's? Yeah, I think it's either Wilco's or Young's yeast nutrient to add to the fermentation vessel, the demijohn, to help basically make a good clean fermentation by giving the yeast some nutrients to thrive, if you will, which is really important, especially with a beer being this strong. Okay, so I missed a step, but essentially I've recorded over every 15 minutes. I took the temperature over the hour to see if it was still maintaining the 68.9 degrees mash temp, and basically what we've got here is after 15 minutes it dropped to 66.7 and took 2 minutes to heat up to 68.9 again. At 30 minutes it was 68.2 degrees and took 30 seconds to heat to 68.9 again. After 48 minutes it was 68 degrees. Interestingly enough, it took 41 seconds to heat back up to temperature, and I took a temperature at 60 minutes and it was 68. So you know, I'm quite happy with that. It's all within, well, apart from the first one, you know, within 1 degree, so not too bad. And then I heated it to mash out to 75.6 degrees, which took 5 minutes 26 seconds. Beersmith reckons it takes 10 minutes. I don't know if you can see that there, step time 75.6. So I basically took this, plonked it on top of there, and then I took out the bag and just sat it on top. Didn't squeeze too much, and then I used my lovely pink ruler to measure the pre-boil volume, which was spot on at I think it was 11 litres. Yeah. Estimated pre-boil volume. Yeah, 10 litres. Which came out at 5.5 inches using the ruler and simple maths. So I've got a timer running on this phone I'm using to see how long it takes to bring this up to boil. So literally I'm recording every single step. It's the first time I'm doing this, and I found that people online find it useful to write notes on how the brew day's gone so they can improve it in the future. So other than just doing it mentally, which is what I used to do, and jot it all down so I can get an overall picture once the beer's all done of any snags, anything that worked well, didn't work well, and improvements for the future. So this is just starting to get a nice what we term hot break on the top. So I'm going to shut the camera down for now and then wait for the boil to start. Today we're doing a, what is it, a 60-minute boil? I think it is. Yes, 60-minute boil. And we've got two hop additions. We've got 60 minutes, 7 grams of SARS, and then we've got 7 grams of SARS at 15 minutes before the end. I've got a whirl flop tablet, or Pro. Is it Pro to Flop? What is it? Let's have a look. Pro to Flop tablet. Beersmiths kindly worked out that I need about a third of one tablet. So I'll add that at 15 minutes before the end. I really wanted to use my new toy, which is my water chiller, but because the tap connection's pants, you really need a screw fit connector. I've got an adapter for it, but basically you get zero pressure through, so you may as well just run the cold water in the sink, and because I'm not on a meter, I can use what I want. Bit wasteful, but because this is just a 1 gallon batch, it should take about half an hour. So I've just been thinking whilst this is boiling, get ready for the second hop addition with my Protoflop tablet here. About the sugar and, you know, when do I add it? Is it going to scorch on the bottom of the pan? And so I thought, well, I'll have a look online. Some people reckon you add it to the fermentation 2 or 3 days in at high krausen after you dissolve it in sterilised water, just to kill any bugs that there might be. Some people add it to the kettle. So funnily enough, I came in here just to have a look and get my ingredients ready, weigh my sugar. And I spotted on here that brew packs reckon for best, not for best before, add to the copper at the beginning of the boil. So I haven't seen that. It's about just over half an hour gone. I added it to the kettle, got my little mitt on and stirred like crazy until it was all dissolved, and you can hear it all like pinging around on the bottom of the pan. So when that noise stopped, I knew it dissolved it all. I'm going to add this though 5 minutes towards the end, but because that is solid, I thought it'd be easier and more beneficial on hindsight, and I'm glad I've done it, to add it straight in and get it melted. So the next thing I want to talk about is rehydrating the yeast. So basically, you know, people use the Pyrex dish and they, you know, sterilise some water, boil it off, wait for it to cool to around 25 to 30 degrees, then you add your yeast, leave it quarter of an hour. Well, it depends on the yeast packet, to be honest, and I'll come back to you with the actual process with the Saf Brew Abbey dry yeast that I'm using. But one thing I do know is that you use 10 times the weight of the packet. So on Beersmith, it actually tells you how many mils of water to use. Thing is, with Pyrex jugs, I don't know if you can see, they only do 200 mils. So what I did was, I've got a baster with markings. I don't know if you can see that. Maybe a bit better on this side. So 30 mils. So it told me I needed 115, so I just measured 3 lots of 30, a 10, and then halfway between to get to 115. So the plan is, because I need to cool it down dead quick, is I'm going to I've put what it is in there, and essentially what I'm going to do is put a bit of tape across there so I know that's the level. I'm going to boil the kettle, fill that, dunk it to cool it, because what I want is the whole jar sanitised. So if I fill that with boiling water, it will sanitise the whole lot. Then I can dunk it in cool water, not super cold straight away, because it might crack the glass through thermal shock. But it'll start off with warm water and then progressively get it to cooler water, to cold water, to drop the temperature down to what I need. So then I know that that is completely sanitised. And then I can pour it back into here because it's got a better surface area. And there's some forums and videos out there that say, you know, the surface area matters. Otherwise I could just dump it in there. But because you don't want to clump up the yeast, this is ideal. So I've sanitised this already and just put a bit of cling film on. So I know I can use it, you know, it's going to be clean for later. So essentially I'm going to dump that in there, sprinkle on the yeast, and then follow the instructions to rehydrate it. Then I should get a nice creamy consistency for that. If the yeast is working, hopefully it is, then I can dump it into my fermentation demijohn when I'm ready. So I use my ruler to measure at flame out at 60 minutes how much volume was left, and it came out at 4.5 inches, but really it should be more like 4 inches. So I've set a timer for 10 minutes to boil off some even more beer in the kettle, and then hopefully it'll be 4 inches, which is equivalent to 7.21 litres. Like I said, I measured put some tape on there, put the jar in the cold water, and then just ran the tap round the edge, and it cooled down in probably about 7 or 8 minutes. And then I've put it into there. I actually missed 27 degrees, it went to 24. Took ages, it didn't look like it was going down to any degree, and I left the tap running. But you really have to keep an eye on it, because it recommends with this yeast that you put it in at 27 degrees. So it recommends 15 to 30 minutes in there. So I've set a timer for 15 and have a look at it after that. But I don't know if you can see this, but it is starting to sink down a little bit and start to rehydrate, so that's promising, but we'll see. So this is it, the yeast after about 18 minutes. I'm going to leave it another 12 up to the half-an-hour mark. There's still clumps of yeast which haven't rehydrated yet. Wonder if that is possibly due to the temperature. It'd be interesting to see how quickly it does it when I get it bang on 27 degrees next time. That's if I'm lucky enough to get that. You can probably hear some running water. That is the water being cooled down. Like I say, I'm not using my water chiller today. So luckily there's just enough gap around there. So essentially the overflow down that gap on the right side is taking the water out, so it's constantly being cooled. I mean, to touch that's about 20 odd degrees, but as the vessel cools down, that'll start to hopefully cool it down a lot quicker. I'm no scientist or mathematician, so I don't know what rate that is. But I've set an alarm for half an hour. I leave the water running. I feel quite bad, to be fair, and see where it is in half an hour, temperature wise. So after 30 minutes, it was almost done. There's just a few clumps that sat on the top. So I sterilised my thermometer and just prodded them. I set my alarm for another 5 minutes, probably a couple minutes left, and then it says to start stirring it for 30 minutes. So I'll just lift up the cling film and stir it periodically over that time. This is still cooling down. I've set an alarm for after half an hour. Not too sure where we are in that time scale. It is still quite hot. Every now and again I just shut the water off, and the water in here goes from cool to warm very quickly, which tells me that the water in there is still too hot. Certainly not pitching temperature. I like to ferment in my plastic bucket with an immersion heater that we use from the aquarium. I've set that up now. I've just put a demijohn that I'm sterilising in the bathroom in, filled the water until it was just about here, brought it through in here, plugged in the thermometer, well, my immersion heater, sorry, set it to 20. We'll see what it comes out at. Hopefully it'll be bang on point. I want 20 degrees for this one, but I might head for 19 just to be safe, because the range it reckons is between 15 and 20, so I'll be happy with a nice 18. Funnily enough, the ambient temperature of the water is 17.2, so there's not much to go. So 30 minutes in, I added a little bit of sugar before, but as you can see, there's a nice creamy frothiness to this, so I'm happy and I'm confident that finally I've got a yeast that I'm pitching that's going to be spot on. I'm just hoping that this will cool down. Still going. 50 minutes later, it's 26.7 degrees, so I'm getting a bit well, not panicky, but I could do a bit sorting its stuff out and getting to pitching temperature real quick, because apparently over time this starts to die. So I'm going to be praying this cools down real fast. Next I'm going to sanitise some bits and pieces, i.e. this, the sieve and the funnel. I've already DWP'd this, very fresh, very clean. I'm happy that there's going to be no issues with that. I took the temperature of my water before, bang on 18 or 19. So look. So it started at 17.2 and now it is, sure it's on the money, 18. Yeah, it is. I'm happy with that. It's an ideal temperature, middle ground, so good stuff. So here we are. I've finally got it all in. I've took a sample to use my refractometer, and here it is. I mean, there's enough left in there for me to take a proper reading using the trial jar and the hydrometer. So look at the creamy head on that. Last time I made it was nothing like that. It's all in there. I gave it an extra shake for aeration, a good 10 minutes, well, maybe 2-3 minutes. Felt like 10 minutes because my arms were aching. Sanitised this, Star San, gave it a good squeeze. Always good to have a bottle of it around, to be fair, because I was like using the thermometer to take the temperature of the water. Rinsed it off, gave it a couple of squirts, and then it was good to go again. So my water's on point, so I'm going to pop it in there, chuck on my towel, check it on a couple of hours. Hopefully we'll get some action. I'll hope if I do, then I know that the yeast is off to a good one. I put a tablespoon and maybe half of Young's yeast nutrient. It's not specifically for beer. I know brew packs do them specifically, but apparently the word on the street, it won't do it any harm. So I'll check back, like I say, in a couple of hours with some refractometer readings for efficiency, see how they've come out and whether the old quad's started to ferment. Cheers. Here we go, 30 minutes in and it's bubbling already. What a winner. Hopefully the only thing that's standing in the way of a decent beer is sanitisation, but I think I've done well on that front. The only downside is the actual gravity, measured at 1.56, which means that my actual efficiency is piss poor. I need to figure out what's gone on, but essentially if this goes down to 1.010, then the percentage is 6%, but if it gets down to 1.002, it's about 7.4. You know, the actual measured batch size should be 8.9, so I'm a little bit behind on that. Bit upset, but you know, there you go. We'll see what happens in the end, and hopefully this one is a winner. But as it's a Belgian quad, if it is towards the 6s and 7s, is it going to be standing up to style? Not really, but you never know. See what happens.